Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Well, what do we have here? Is that TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG 2025 Qatar Grand Prix edition? I think it is, and I only have one thing to say about that. 8-7. If you know, you know, all right? Ollie Bearman, king. What an absolute lad. Welcome, everyone, to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG. We are here to talk all about the Qatar Grand Prix. Welcome, everyone, live here on YouTube. Mr. Corridor, YouTube, XS YouTube, Trevor, ZT Plays, Duartes, Rayner, Herm, McFillan, Trevor, Incredible Bobble, what to say? You know, getting there in the end. Thank you all for joining me. 2 rounds to go in this 2025 Formula 1 season. This weekend we have a sprint. We have a main race as well. It could be settled. It could be settled. We could be about to see our 2025 champion crowned as Lando Norris. Or we could see it go to the finale in Abu Dhabi. There's a lot that can happen. We will absolutely be doing a CHINWAG after the sprint on Saturday as well. So make sure you are subscribed and following and liking and interacting so that you make sure you will see that stream as well as the post-race stream on Sunday as well. It's getting close now, and that double disqualification has made this way more interesting because Lando would have almost certainly wrapped it up if not for that double disqualification. He would have wrapped it up this weekend. He may well still. It's in his hands. It's absolutely unquestionably in his hands. He has to deliver. McLaren have to deliver a car underneath him that not only is quick but is also legal, and that was the problem last time out. Minton's downstairs XS. I don't think Minton's going to make this one, but maybe Minton will make the Saturday live stream. There you go. I'll promise you that. A bit of Minton on the Saturday post-Qatar Sprint live stream, so make sure you're there so you get to see my little dog. Right, let's talk about it, shall we? Let's get into it. Round 23. Qatar. I'm excited for this. It's bubbled along, hasn't it, this season? We've had peaks, we've had troughs. We haven't had the bite, anywhere near the bite that we've had in 2021. However, in terms of the closeness of a title fight, it's very much been there. There were times in 2021 where Max and Lewis seemed worlds apart in both sides, and then they would always seem to converge on one another. Oscar seemed to have the measure over Lando in terms of consistency over the course of the year, and then all of a sudden hit a horrific patch of form that he hasn't been able to dig himself out of, has he? It's now or never for him, absolutely. But he is level on points with Max. They are both 24 points behind Lando Norris. So it is very much anyone's game if he can mentally reset and go again. It is mad. It is mad how Oscar's performance has fallen off a cliff. I do wonder. Honestly, my best prediction, and I've got no basis to make this, is that there's something up with the car and something that happened in Baku maybe. Crash damage, some kind of crack in the chassis or something, because for his consistency to be so good and now so bad, like it baffles me. I think there must be something up with the car that McLaren haven't diagnosed. That's my most likely guess, but honestly, who knows? And maybe we will never know. But Qatar, this is going to be a very interesting one for a few different reasons. Let's first look at the Losail International Circuit in Qatar, 5.42 kilometres long, 57 laps, looking pretty warm. Friday, Saturday, Sunday highs of 27, 25 on the Sunday, lows of 18, 19 degrees Celsius, of course, because that is the correct measurement. Americans, Fahrenheit, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Come on, surely freezing is 0, no brainer. On the tyres, C1, C2, C3, the hardest tyre compound in the Pirelli range, but also a mandated 25-lap maximum stint. And as you can see, 57, well, 25 goes into that 2 and a bit time. So it will mandate a 2-stop for the Grand Prix. Won't be an issue in the sprint because there's only 19 laps in the sprint, but you are not allowed to run a tyre compound for more than 25 laps. And that includes, say you start the race on 3-lap used hards, for example, you can only run them 22 laps in the race. It's 25 laps total because of the demands on the tyres, high downforce, high temperature, very, very aggressive curbs around the Sale. This is a motorbike circuit. Ultimately, that's what it's designed for. But I tell you what, these cars, in terms of going to a track and seeing these cars at their most impressive, in terms of the laws of physics and how quickly they go around corners, I reckon LaSalle is right up there. I reckon it's right at the sharp end of seeing these cars and being like, wow, these are actually unbelievably quick. Because the impressiveness of an F1 car is not in a straight line. It's how it takes the corners, and it's corners galore around here, mainly medium speed, which typically plays into McLaren's favour and possibly plays into Oscar's driving style. But again, it's not like it doesn't work for Lando either, because, spoiler alert, Lando outqualified Oscar in both the sprint and race in Qatar last year, and would have finished ahead of him in the sprint had he not gifted him the position at the end, and would have finished ahead of him in the race if not for the 10-second penalty that he got, which we'll go over in a little bit. So, yeah, this is... I mean, Max won last time out as well, by the way. So, again, there's good arguments. I did make a video. That was my video last week. I had to get that in early doors because I had a very busy week. I also picked up keys to a new house yesterday, so that's exciting. Not moving out of this setup yet. This is still going to be my work home for the end till the end of the year, and once the house is ready, because the house needs a bit of love, but we will get it there. And don't you worry, I'll have my own dedicated space at some point, and it's going to be sick. But you're going to have to wait for that until 2026. So, yes, been a busy boy as of late, but yes, Qatar should be very interesting weekend. Sprint to boot as well. Lando can't win it after, even if he scores 8 points, the maximum, and Max and Oscar, don't score a single point. That will still put his advantage at 32 points going into the Grand Prix, which again, it just gives Lando a little bit more buffer. Actually, there was something I was meaning to check here. Most race, I'm going to check this now actually, because obviously countback is a thing. We could go into the final Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi with Lando 25 points clear of whoever's second. It's unlikely to be both Oscar and Max, right? Surely. But in terms of wins, so far this season, and I'm sure they only look at Grand Prix for countback, right? In terms of wins. So Lando has won Australia, Monaco, Austria, Britain, Hungary, Mexico, Sao Paulo. So that's 7 wins. I can count, can't I? Yeah, I can count. 7 wins for Lando. Oscar's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 7. Ollie, I mean, mad. So they've got the same number of wins. That's crazy. But Oscar hasn't done anything for the last 6 weekends. 7 weekends, should I say? Got you again. Honestly, the Ronaldo memes have been unbelievable. I know AI is going to end the world, but at least we'll laugh while we perish. And then Max has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins. So he's 1 win behind is Max. So Lando and Oscar both on 7 wins apiece. So that could factor in if we get to... because, of course, that was the case in 2021, wasn't it? Max still had an advantage. Even though they were level on points, he had more wins. He had better countback than Lewis, which meant that Lewis had to... That could have made all the difference. That probably did make a lot of the difference in terms of the risk that you take, the risk that you choose to... Brain rot got to bro. I know, right? You can't avoid it. No, we are a 6-7-3 zone. This is an 8-7 zone. If you haven't seen Ollie Behrman try to get everyone to do 8-7, it just cracked me up so much. I'm not laughed at a F1 driver's behaviour that much for a long time. I've got to be honest. Right. So yes, last time out. In Qatar, as you can see, Max won the race. Oscar P3, Leclerc P2. Would have been Lando P2. On pace, it should have been Lando P2, but under the yellow flags, Lando did not slow down and got a drive-through or stop-go. I can't actually remember what it was. I think it was a drive-through. Could have been a stop go. He finished P10 in the end, Lando. So that promoted Oscar onto the podium. But yeah, it was I think Lando put a couple of tenths on Oscar in qualifying. And then, yeah, it's a good track for Oscar, but it is also a good track for Lando. So, you know, you kind of got to look at it from both sides. Altini, you've just arrived. Welcome. Do you want me to restart? No, I'm not making that joke again. I do that far too often. And of course, in the sprint, like I say, it was Lando leading the way, but he did return the position to Oscar to return the favour for what happened in Brazil, because obviously by this point we knew that Max had sewn up the championship, so it made sense. It was pragmatic for Lando to get that little, yeah, there you go, I've given you that back, so now we're even. I mean, you play to your outs. Was it a stop-go? Damn. Yeah, I couldn't remember, but it's stop-go. That was a tough penalty, but you got to slow down, and he didn't slow down. So, you know, rules the rules, right? Fine margins in terms of technical infringements, but also very strict when it comes to those kind of not slowing down under safety cars and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's what happened last time out in Qatar. Right, let's reflect then. Quali head-to-heads. This is how they're looking so far this season. Been keeping track of these over the course of the entire year. We've done 27 qualifying sessions in total. We've got 2 qualifying sessions, remember, this weekend because of the sprint quali as well. And then a final qualifying session in Abu Dhabi to round it up. So these numbers shouldn't change much because we've got such a big pool. The closest on average is Norris and Piastri. Norris now has the advantage. Piastri's had the advantage over the entire season. Built it to about a 10th on average. And then over these last 7 weekends, he's just taken L after L after L in qualifying relative to Lando. And now Lando's turned it around. Albon Sainz as well, very close, 18 thousandths. Hulkenberg Bortoletto within a 10th. Behrman Ocon, 0.120. Hadjar Lawson, 10th and a half. Leclerc Hamilton about 10th and a half as well. Gasly Colapinto near a 2 tenths. Russell Antonelli, 2.5 tenths. Alonso Stroll, just over 3 tenths. And Verstappen Tsunoda, of course, the biggest by far, 6 tenths, over 6 tenths. Which is not good enough, unfortunately. Yeah, we'll see. And it'll be interesting to reflect on this as well, because this is just looking at the entire season. We'll probably do a stream analysing, going over all of this, doing like an end of season CHINWAG to sit alongside my typical end of season videos. And I'll probably split this down the middle, varied throughout the course of the year, as OBS briefly disconnects and now seems to reconnect for no apparent and obvious reason. But there you go. The game's the game. Driver standings after 22 of 24 rounds. Of course, Lando Norris 390 points, would have been 408, but of course was not to be thanks to a fraction of a millimetre, literally. But game's the game. McLaren shouldn't have flown so close to the sun, should they? Should have built in more margin. Oscar Piastri, 24 points back. Max Verstappen, 24 points back. Other than that, none of these positions really matter. George has got P4 on lock, as has Charles P5, as has Lewis P6. I mean, man, maybe Antonelli. Antonelli could catch Lewis, you know. 15 points back, 2 rounds to go. Lewis's confidence seemingly absolutely nowhere. Like, he was so negative about not just the race, but even like next year in his post-race after Vegas. So concerning, I've got to be honest. Albon's got P8 on lock, surely. And then, let's be fair, Hadjar 51, Hulkenberg 49, Sainz 48. And then Behrman 41, Alonso 40, Lawson 36. Crazy. Ocon, Stroll, same number of points. It is interesting that so many drivers have scored decent points. Even Bortoletto in P19 has 19 points. Which 19 points is like, in most seasons, a fairly decent haul for a low midfield team. But it's put him the lowest point scorer of the year because, of course, Colapinto still doesn't have a point. And unfortunately, Alpine aren't really providing the environment for Franco or Pierre, for that matter, to flourish, which is a bit of a shame. A bit of a shame. So, yeah, driver standings as such, but the team standings, a little bit more interesting. Mercedes P2, 431 points, 40 points ahead of Red Bull. That's almost certainly done now. Huge points haul. Very much benefited Mercedes from the McLaren double disqualification. Ferrari 4th. I mean, they could catch Red Bull, given that Yuki's not delivering any points, but you've got to expect Max to be right up there as well at the sharp end for the remaining 2 rounds of the season. So it's not looking good for Ferrari. Williams P5 should be on lock, surely. 31 points over Racing Bulls. That should be enough. But then Haas, still Green Haas. Green Haas, 73 points. Ahead of Red Aston Martin on 72 points. If you were here for the post-race, I can't believe I forgot to update that. I'm such an idiot. Sauber 68 as well. So the battle for P7, because it feels like Racing Bulls have done enough now to consolidate P6, which is huge for them. But yeah, P7, P8, P9, or should I say P9, P87. Ollie Behrman, honestly, what a lad. And then Alpine, plumb last, 22 points. Considering where Alpine and McLaren were relative to one another in 2021. Even 2020, Renault were clear of McLaren, weren't they? And it had a great livery. Renault was so sick. They had 2 of my favourite drivers, because I've always had a soft spot for Esteban, absolutely. And Ricciardo, who doesn't like Ricciardo? Come on. 2020, they had a banging livery. I thought Cyril was a vibe, because he always used to wind up Christian Horner. Like, what a team that was in 2020. And it's just so... it's such a shame, man. It's such a shame they just effed it all up, man. We will not do 8-7 here. Oh, I will. Wolf Sado. I will absolutely do 8-7 here. But yeah. Team standings are as such. Driver standings are as such. Okay. Excellent. Lovely jubbly. Happy days. What microphone am I using? I'm using a Shure MV7. I think this one is. Can't see if it says... Yeah. Shure MV7. And it's just a USB plug-in as well, so I don't need an audio interface, because I used to. I was just like, am I really getting any benefit from that? I do need to re-hook up my little soundboard thing, because I've used that in the past, but I've just got lazy with it, to be honest. But I can build some little sound effects into the streams. I will do that next year, definitely. I need to be more disciplined and elevate these levels. You know what I mean? Need to get it done. Right, okay. Let's get on with... bangers and clangers, shall we? Predictions for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix. Who's going to take it all? Now, that 25 lap maximum stint mandating 2 stops is going to, I think, change somewhat the lay of the land and potentially allow, for example, Mercedes, who typically thrive in the cold and struggle in the heat, to maybe do a bit better, because they've not got to nurse their tyres so much, because they know they're going to have to do at least a 2-stop, maybe even a 3-stop. Maybe a 3-stop could be viable for some teams as well this weekend. Just because it's a mandated 2 minimum doesn't mean you can't do more and maybe make more work. Is that playing into my prediction? Thing is, for me, this weekend, very much, there's a head and there's a heart, okay? And my heart wants this to go to the finale with Max and, I almost said Lewis. God, damn. No, unfortunately not. Max, Lando and Oscar all in this fight and as close on points as theoretically possible. That's what my heart says. My head says Lando Norris wins the Grand Prix, and regardless of what happens in the sprint, he wraps up the 2025 F1 World Drivers title in Qatar, 1 race prior to Abu Dhabi. That's what I think. If I had to put money on it, that's what I think is going to happen. I think Lando's driving very well at the moment. Yes, his defence against Max wasn't perfectly executed. He went wide. He cost himself a position, not only to Max, but to George as well, through going a bit wide. However, I think this has Lando pole written all over it, and I think he'll do enough. Maybe he won't win the race. I'm predicting him to win the race, but I think he'll do enough this weekend, regardless of whether or not he wins the race. I am very confident he will be champion come Sunday evening. That's what I think. That's what I think is actually going to happen. Do I want it to go to the finale? Absolutely, but I think Lando is going to do enough to get it done. And I think he'll win the race as well. I actually do think he'll win the race. I think he'll have enough pace. He was quicker than Oscar around Qatar last year, and Oscar's got no confidence right now, so I'm very confident he'll finish ahead of of Oscar. And Max, I mean, who knows, right? Max can pull something out the bag. You know he can. But I just feel like Lando's going to have enough. If he can lead out of turn 1, I think it's done. Obviously, 2 stops do bring in 2 pit stops. And the pressure is going to be on McLaren. Particularly, I think, because it will very much be, if Max does win this championship, it will be the one that McLaren threw away. You know, as much as I think people will criticise Oscar and Lando for their respective performances, also McLaren haven't always held up their end of the bargain, right? Lando's DNF in Zandvoort, a good example. This double disqualification, an even better example. So, and obviously Zach's quote, don't really care if he doesn't win the drivers, as long as they'd rather keep the drivers equal than prioritise one to win the drivers title, which is a bit crazy. I'm not sure if I believe that. But yeah, Lando Norris race winner. That's what I think. But what about you? Well, 722 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting. If you didn't see the poll, make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey. Follow me on Instagram at Tommo McCluskey, where I occasionally post a bit more behind the scenes stuff. If you want to get involved, then that's where you need to go. Thank you for all of your support and enabling me to do this as my job for the last 4 years, which is an insane privilege. And I promise you, I am grateful for it every day. I really am. And your race winner for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix is Max Verstappen. 49% of the votes. 30% of you went with Norris, which means 30% of you think, because essentially, not mathematically, because it's 7 points between P1 and 2, and you can get 8 points in the sprint if you win it, and, you know, that would still allow a gap of less than 25 to the finale. But basically, if Lando wins the race, he's won the championship, right? 18% of you think Oscar Piastri is going to win the race, and 2% of you think George Russell. Jorge Russell. It doesn't add up. Thank you, Rouse, for being the first one to say that. There's always one of you. There's always one of you. Right, so race winner, 49% of the vote is Max Verstappen. Interesting. What about banger driver? Who's going to deliver? Who's going to deliver performance this weekend? I'm going Fernando Alonso. I feel like Fernando's, you know, had a very difficult year. I'm sure he's absolutely gagging to get into that 2026 car. But I could just see around Qatar, I just think the old maestro can pull something out the bag in that Aston Martin. I reckon it will work decently around Qatar. We'll see. I could be proven very wrong because Aston Martin are super up and down. But why not? Fernando Alonso, yeah, I'll give you that. Svenes? Is that, you know, Svenes? Alonso P6. Yeah, why not? Why not? Alonso P6. I'll take that. And Stroll podium's not going to happen because it's not raining. Because Stroll in the rain is actually a bit of a beast. Not going to lie, he just is. So banger drive for me, Fernando Alonso. Banger drive for you is Max Verstappen. 15% of the vote, though. So a very, very big spread. 15% Max, 12% Oscar, 10% Norris, 10% Antonelli. Let's get some other mentions in here as well. Honourable ones. Behrman, 7% of the vote. Russell, 6%. Leclerc, 6%. Hadjar, 5%. Sainz, 4%. Alonso, 6%. Albon, 2.5%. Would be 3 if rounding up. Come on, Alex. He needs a good weekend because he's had some howlers as of late. Not going to lie. And unfortunately, you can't still vote because I've done the graphics. But these aren't live update graphics. I do these all manually. If there was a live update system on Photoshop that I could somehow, that would be amazing. But I don't think it's worth the effort to try and work that out. And it probably doesn't exist, but maybe it does. So, banger drive and race winner. You are all in on Max. For me, I've gone Lando. I've gone Fernando. Okay. Banger team. Who's bringing the bang this weekend from a team point of view? Oh, wait, no. Clanger driver. Sorry. Clanger driver. I've forgotten the order of my own. I literally made. What's wrong with me? Clanger driver. I've gone Lewis Hamilton. Because it's not been very good as of late. It's been very poor as of late. And Lewis has not been able to extract the performance from this difficult Ferrari. in the same way that Charles Leclerc can. He was very, very, very despondent in Vegas. And I worry. I worry, especially his comments about he's not looking forward to next year either. Just, come on, Lewis, man, find something. I don't want this to be the case, trust me, but I've gone Lewis Clanger driver for me for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix. As for you, your Clanger driver, we're not on to bang a team yet, is Lando Norris. That forced Lando hate. No, I know what's going on here. I understand what's going on here. You're trying to manifest this season finale in Abu Dhabi. And I get it. I understand that. Okay. My heart wants Lando to have a clanger relative to Max and Oscar so that we go to the finale and then he who dares wins, right? But yeah, 23% of you, Lando Norris clanger driver, 12% Lewis Hamilton, 10% Oscar Piastri. So there's a bit of belief that, oh, here we go. My YouTube's just done a weird thing. 10% Oscar Piastri, 7% Yuki Tsunoda. Damn, Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, would it be it would be a clanger from Yuki? Would it be a clanger if Yuki managed to like take out both McLarens? Would that be a clanger? It would be a clanger from an objective point of view, but it would be an absolute certified banger from a Max Verstappen point of view, right? Not that that's going to happen, obviously, but that's just kind of funny, isn't it? The memes have been prime with that, right? Everyone being like, Yuki, now's your time. Oh, dear. The things that championships bring out, because I'm just so glad that we're getting it still so up in the air. Still 3 drivers in the mix with so little time to go. Like, we've not had that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we had more than 2 drivers in the mix this late on in the season was probably 2010. Probably 2010. Is there a season more recently? And obviously 2010 was chaos because you had Webber, you had Vettel, you had Hamilton, and you had Alonso. You had 4 drivers at Abu Dhabi in with a shot of winning it, on paper anyway. Lewis was a pretty outside chance, and obviously Webber and Alonso kind of favourites, weren't they, towards the end of the year, and kind of Vettel came in out of nowhere. Well, 2012 was Vettel and Alonso, but I'm saying more than 2. Because there wasn't anyone else. It was just Vettel and Alonso, wasn't it, in 2012? Or was there someone else in the title fight with 2 races to go? Because I'm pretty sure that it was just them 2, wasn't it? And that later on in the season. But yeah, we will see. We will see. Three drivers, mathematical chance going into the finale. Simply lovely. Would love to see it. Let's go again. Hamilton for 2012. Was Hamilton in it that late in the season? I want to check this out. So I know I'm kind of going off piste here a bit, but I want to see how late on in the year. My keyboard's just run out of battery seemingly. So we're going to have to use the old one on the laptop. Right, where's Lewis? Where's Lewis in 2012? No, Kimi finished 3rd. Oh, God, no. 2012, it was just Seb and Fernando. 281 to 278. Raikkonen was on 207 by the end of the year. Hamilton on 190. So, yeah, it was just them 2. So, it must be 2010. The last time we had more than 2 drivers in with a chance of winning the title this late on in the season. Crazy. Crazy. Love to see it. Love to see it. Right, okay. Bang a team now for me. I've gone McLaren. I do think they're going to pull it together and they're going to get Lando the championship. They're going to get him it won. They're going to deliver their side. I don't see them having 2 horrific weekends back to back in terms of, well, again, it wasn't horrific. Last weekend, it was a millimetre fractional technical infringement, which you can't afford to do, right? But in terms of performance, the McLaren was quick, and it will be quick in Qatar. So I do think McLaren will be bang a team this weekend. And you think McLaren as well. 22% of the votes, 17% Mercedes, 13% Red Bull, 11% Racing Bulls. So a big spread, again, from you lot for bang a team. As for Clanger, I've gone Williams because they will always find a way to make some kind of mistake, whether it's their radio not working, bringing Alex into the pits, not putting the front wing on, letting him go around again, bringing him back into putting the new front wing. car breaking down, sending out Carlos at the wrong time for qualify. They will find a way to mess this up, because they always seem to, because they need to sort out their operations at Williams. James, if you're listening, please, because we need to see Willies at the top, right? Quote that. We need to see Willies at the top. Yeah, new logo next year. Albon, my guy, Sainz, love him. Great meme generator, okay, is Carlos. There's so much there at Williams. Just sort out your ops, and then you're cooking, okay? Just sort out your ops, and then you're cooking. But yeah, I've gone Williams for Clanger because they'll find a way to mess it up, undoubtedly. And you've gone for McLaren as Clanger, 20% of the vote, 17% Alpine, 14% Aston Martin, 13% Ferrari. That is a very, very Dutch bangers and clangers from you lot. I've got to be honest. Max, winner and banger, Lando Clanger, banger McLaren, Clanger. I mean, McLaren, it's just great. I love it. I love it. I love it. The Dutch bias is strong with this one, okay? But we'll see. We will see. That's who you've gone with. This is who I've gone with. And we'll reflect upon this on the post-race on Sunday to see who's won out, who's on top, who has taken the dub. Okay? Perfect. Excellent. Lovely, jubbly, happy days. Okay. Right, got a few super chats to go through. Thank you very much for super chatting. You don't have to, but I appreciate it and how you support what I do. Thank you, Ragav. Do you think Oscar and Lando are championship material given Lando's start and Oscar's end to the season? Max Lewis Alonso would have won the title in Monza. Yeah, so I think that, look, championship material, there are many drivers, you go through the history of the sport who were presented opportunities and took them. Jenson Button is a good example of a driver who is very good, but I put him nowhere near the levels of the primes of his time, be that Alonso, be that Hamilton, be that Vettel, etc., etc. And he had an opportunity, and it was close at the end, but he took it and he won it. Lando has immense talent and immense skill and immense ability to extract lap time from a car. It concerns me that this far into his career, he still makes the mistakes he does over the course of this year. However, you can't ignore the talent and the pace that he shows to put himself in positions. Because, people say, oh, Lando bottles, blah, blah, blah. But he's the one getting himself in these opportunities to then sometimes fumble them, granted. But I think if Lando can win this championship, I think we'll see a better version of Lando Norris going forward, because that kind of he'll have done it. He's got that championship and can kind of settle in a bit more. I think if he doesn't win it, then I am concerned we will continue to see unforced errors, mistakes from Lando, not executing to his potential. Oscar is in his third season in F1, where you look at other drivers in their third seasons of F1. You look at Max in his third season in 2018. 15, 16, 17. 17 was his third season, technically. Even in 18, Max was still harpooning Ferraris left, right, and centre, just for fun. So, and Leclerc in his third season, obviously he had 18, 19, so 20 was his third season. That's when he destroyed Seb. He very much stood up that year. Still very crashy, don't get me wrong though. At that time, shoulder crash was still a thing. So I've seen enough from Oscar this season, even with this drop in form, to believe, right, okay, he can go away, work out what happened, what went so wrong, because it's gone so right for so much of this season. Again, Oscar top 3 in qualifying every single weekend for the first... For 15 out of the first 16 rounds, including sprint qualies, he was top 3 in quali every single time apart from Miami, where he was P4 in quali. That's such sick consistency. And his average P5.13 in the last 8 weekends, or whatever I said in my video. It was 8 qualifying sessions in the last 6 weekends prior to Vegas. So it's just... Yeah, it's mad. There's enough, though, when I look at these other drivers and how incomplete Max and Charles and, these other guys still were. It's hard to compare to Lewis because Lewis came from an era of unlimited testing. You know, he'd had more than an entire season's worth of testing before he even stepped in 2007 in Australia, right, for that debut race. So it's hard to compare. But I do think, yeah, after 3 years, I don't think we've not seen Max, we've not seen Charles, we've not seen any of these, we've not seen George, any of these top drivers from this kind of generation be at their final form after 3 seasons. They've all continued to develop and grow and refine their craft. And that's why I still believe that Oscar can be championship material. And for most of this year, he has been championship material. And it's just, that's what makes it so fascinating how it's ended and fallen. It's not ended, but it feels like it's ended, doesn't it? So quickly. And like you say, Max, Lewis, Alonso would have won the title in Monza. Perhaps they would have. And they are much more experienced than both Lando and Oscar, particularly more than Oscar. So, you know, and I think Max and Lewis and Alonso are more complete drivers. Yeah, you can question Lewis right now in terms of his form and but again, he's in that Ferrari machine that spat out Alonso, spat out Vettel. It's tough, right? It's tough. So, yeah, do I think they're championship material? I think Oscar is very close to being, and I think Lando will be if he can get this one over the line. That's probably my answer to that question, Ragav. Thank you for the super chat, appreciate it. Thank you, BL4XXUN. Why is it more suspicious that Oscar struggles on tracks he's always struggled than Lando struggling earlier in the year? Well, I think it's because when you look at Lando's performances, so for example, China's a good one where Lando had the pace and then he would make a unforced error and put himself back. You know, Canada, Lando had pace, but he made an error. Oscar, for me, the difference is that he's started the season so strong, and then like out of nowhere, his pace has gone, seemingly. He can't keep pace with Lando in the same way that he could earlier in the year. Lando has had the pace throughout the year, I think. He's just struggled executing consistently, and he's made more mistakes. And there's this suspension change that happened where Lando got a slightly different suspension setup. Oscar decided not to have it, and it appeared to make the car more predictable for Lando's inherent style. Their styles are different. So that's where I look at that and think, yeah, Lando always had the pace this year to be at the top and to win more Grand Prix, but just would make those mistakes that Oscar wouldn't. And that puts you behind, and it's a qualifying championship a bit at the minute. When you're ahead, it's a big advantage. And, you know, Lando, they've won the same number of races this year, right? And Lando was consistently on the podium, so he's always up there. He just didn't, that execution just let him down one too many times. Oscar has just been nowhere near a podium for forever now, seemingly. So it's like, that's for me what the difference is. In my perception of them two and their respective troubles this year. They're struggling with different issues, I guess is what I'd say. Thank you, Rouse of Ireland. If Yuki gets a podium, will we get a Yuki tattoo? I'm not getting a tattoo. Like, I'd do something else. If Yuki got a podium, I would do something. Maybe this is an opportunity to think about what I could do if Yuki. But I'm not getting a tattoo. All right. This skin is not being touched by a tattoo. Okay. My temple, that is my body. No tattoos, but I would definitely do something, because why not? Because that would be unbelievable. And thank you again, Rouse. The 3 other big teams' second drivers being mid this year makes the McLaren look better than it was. Hot take. Well, what can we say? So, Lewis being... I mean, the thing is, Charles has done better than Lewis. Yes, of course. But it's not like... It's been like some weekends Lewis has been really close to Charles, like basically the same, and then some weekends he's miles off. And I think it's the brakes he's struggling on, and also Ferrari is Ferrari. I think McLaren have definitely, they've had an advantage of having a third year now of this partnership, so that has definitely played into their favour. Kimi having his drop off mid-season, sure, but even if Kimi had not dropped off in Europe, I still think Mercedes are way off McLaren. in terms of constructors. Yeah, maybe Kimi gets. Let's be generous and give Kimi an extra 50 points or something in the Drivers' Championship. That's still putting them nowhere near McLaren. And then, I mean, look, Red Bull, it is what it is, right? It's been this way since Ricciardo left the team. So it's very hard to, if they had two Maxes, of course, if they had two Maxes, they'd be up there with McLaren, but that's just not, like, viable. It's clearly not a driver problem, is it? So we've seen this long enough that we know that's the case. So I think it's made it easier for McLaren, no doubt, like winning the Constructors so much sooner than the season ended. That didn't word that very well, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't think it's made a massive difference in my opinion. I understand what you're getting at, but I still think McLaren have been the cut above this year. No doubt. Thank you, Andre. Do you find it weird Norris was told to lift for the plank, but Piastri was told nothing, and they knew both cars had the same issue? The bias is unreal. So what I would say, Andre, that they were in different circumstances, weren't they? Because Piastri was in a direct fight with cars around him for position. Lando had that gap behind him to slow into. So they're not like, objectively, they're not like for like. If Oscar had that kind of gap behind him, I would like to believe McLaren would have said the same. And because he didn't, because he was in a fight, they felt like, well, with Lando, we've got nothing really to lose by telling him to slow down and just to make sure that we're definitely not going to foul on this plank. Whereas Oscar, well, it's like, well, we could tell him to slow down and then he would either like lose position or not gain position as well. And then the plank might be fine. So it's one of them that I do understand that there was nothing to lose by telling Lando to slow down. There was more theoretically to lose by telling Oscar to slow down, but it didn't matter in the end either because they both failed. Because they did check all the top 10 cars. I don't know if it's out there, I did the Midweek F1 podcast on Monday and it was with Jenny Gow, good old Jen. Love Jenny. And she was saying, the top 10 all got checked for their planks. And no one else fouled, just the two McLarens. Tough. So it was clearly a set-up choice by the team, and they just flew too close to the sun. Thank you, Issam, for the super chat as well. What changes to the track would you make? What would I make to Qatar? There's a lot of gravel. Gravel works. I mean, as a track, it's pretty good. Like I think it's decent. I mean, I had I did a poll actually before I even started the stream, and I've not even reflected on it. Thoughts on the Qatar Grand Prix track? 1,225 of you voted. 20% of you think banger. 60% think small bang. 25% mild clang. 8% clanger. So you're 7-3 split basically. I mean, a bit of undulation would be nice, I suppose, because it is pretty flat. But then again, so many tracks do have I don't think that would necessarily make it a better track. I mean, I think Qatar kind of is okay. Just, I guess, more... If you chucked in an extra overtaking opportunity that felt like kind of a clear, makeable one other than turn one, would be nice to see. But I wouldn't really change too much, Sam, actually. I think it's a decent track for what it is. You know, it's never going to be a Silverstone. It's never going to be a Monza. It's never going to have that kind of character with it. But actually, I think for F1 cars, and I don't mind the track limits thing can obviously be a bit annoying in qualifying. If you have an automated system of track limits that dings cars, then fine, have that. But as well, in as many places as possible, I'd like there to just be gravel so that you don't need to... The gravel will enforce a track limit by stopping drivers going onto it, but also if they do go into it, they're going to lose time anyway. And if you could, look, for me, if you can set a pole position lap by driving a lap where you do dip a wheel on the gravel and maybe extend track limits, but you've lost time, but you've of course you've lost time going on the gravel and you can still set pole, you deserve it. That's why I say it. Thank you, Ven, as well. No question or comment, just here for the sport. Love your content. First time I was able to catch it live. Thank you very much, Ven. Very kind of you. Very much appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do, and I'm very thankful for you all for joining along for the ride. I do appreciate it. Right, is anyone... I was looking back for suggestions for what I should do if Yuki gets a podium, but I can't... I think I might have missed it in the live chat, so I'll look back after. Maybe let me know in the comments of this live stream what I should do if Yuki gets a podium, because that would be lovely. That would be simply lovely. I'd be very, very happy with that. Go bald. I mean, to be fair, Hannah has been saying to me she thinks I could pull off a bit of a skin fade, like very, very short hair. I'm not so sure about that, but I do need a haircut. I'm in desperate need of a haircut. If I flip the old cap round, look, it's very, very long at the minute. It's getting like... Obviously, I'm getting a bit grey on the sides as well, so maybe that could be the reason I go bald. Maybe. And thank you again, Rouse. Did McLaren make Oscar give up a win for Lando in Abu Dhabi? No, I don't think they would do that. I mean, Zach Brown would literally be going back on what he's said. So for him to say that, he didn't have to say what he said about, we'd rather lose the Drivers' Championship than prioritise a driver. So based off of his words, because he would be held to those words if he did do that. A moustache would not happen. I'd be divorced. To be honest, that's not going to happen. Design a Yuki restaurant logo. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe. Right, okay. I'm done. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate you all taking the time. Raina, Ali, Cobb, Max, Relaxing TV, Lucas, Matthew, Josh, Alex, Dan, Alternate, You, Woe Machines, Bobby, Schroeder, McFillin, Crease, Kiwi. Sorry, Cease, not Crease. Kiwi. Thank you all. Appreciate you all taking the time. This is going to go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the rest. You can check the podcast out over there as well, where the video version lives on Spotify, and all's fair. Let's see. Let's hope this championship goes to Abu Dhabi. But if Lando can get it done this weekend, I will be correct. So we'll see. And thank you, Mr. Hoppy, for the late super chat. Tommo, we talked about this. It's a Synodium. We did talk about this, and you are right. Synodium. Come on, Yuki. Get it done. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. 8-7. Ta-da.